All right. I need to get a better handle on this stuff.
Yeah, it's all the new technology, right? Learning how to get the intros in and out and videos and all that stuff.
Right, right. So, but welcome to the first episode of the Kuden podcast. The truth beyond the mat.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
yeah. So,
that's an exciting name. It's pretty cool.
um, but I guess Ali, you and I have done a couple podcasts in the past, but
Yes.
nothing official together.
Hmm.
So I guess why don't you kind of give a little background on yourself, like how you started training and all your your schools and this and that, and I'll give a little background on myself.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, it could be a long. I could take a podcast or two just to go over everything. It's
Right.
always. I have a long career. I started when I was 3.5, 4 years old, and can you hear my dog barking in the background?
It's fine. I have three of them.
It's fun. Like he's wanting to come in. Let me let him in. Hold
Yeah,
on.
go ahead.
I'll be totally unprofessional, right?
Nah, it's cool
Get
because
in here.
I'm sure one of mine will start barking
His
pretty
name
soon.
is Ninja, by the way. So that's a
Really?
cool thing. Yeah, is he's a little multi-poo, black multi-poo, and anyway, yeah. So I started at around 3 or 4, 3.5 years old. My dad was a Nassau County police officer, motorcycle policeman. My mom, a European seamstress from the island of Malta. They lived in the United States. I was born in 65, and at around 68 or 69, they put me in the martial arts. My dad wanted me to be able to train because he wasn't super tall at that time in the, end of the 60s to 70s. It was kind of like what we had now, where cops were not very favored. They weren't treated really well. So if people knew that I was the son of a cop, they would probably start trouble with me. And that whole entire scenario. And anyway, long story short, they put me in a jujitsu school. And it was actually the first chain martial arts school that was out there, called Jerome Mackey. And it was like the first franchise school. And they never accepted students at the age I was, but my dad, being a cop, used his influence to get them to accept me. And I had a cousin who was a really kind of famous martial artist at the time, did some stunt work with some of the older movies in the 70s, Sonny Chiba and things like that. So he'd come out from Rockaway Beach and he'd teach me. Every time he came, he brought me throwing stars or nunchucks or a sword or, tumfa. That was his gift to me. So he was one of my first inspirations. Anyway, fast forward real far quickly. I trained in Shotokan karate. And then I met Chris Sayak of the Sayak fighting system, very famous knife fighter, and great martial artist, and had a great time with him. I ended up taking the school over. He literally dangled the keys in front of me and threw them to me and said, "Here, it's your school now, and run it." I was like 16 years old. And that was my first taste of being an owner of a school. And anyway, long story short, I didn't want to do that. It was just too much work. After 2 years, I kind of just went back to being in a rock band and training in the martial arts. And then I met Xian Felix Vasquez, who is an American ninjutsu practitioner. And then I started from him training with Tanimura Sensei in Japan. And there was a whole bunch of other things along the way, but that's like my main crux of my martial art training.
Nice, nice. And why don't you talk a little bit about like your professional life? You know, I think one of the things that for viewers that are watching or listening, you've had multiple successful schools,
Yeah.
thousands of students
Yeah.
over the course of your career. Talk a little bit about that and some, I guess, some of the highs and lows.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of really really large highs, but there's also equally just the same amount as really big lows.
Mhm.
So with running a school, I should say, even just being a martial art teacher, it's not as easy as it seems. Number one, as you know, you run schools, right? And everyone thinks it's fun. The Mr. Miyagi, the student shows up at the house and he teaches them how to wax on and wax off. And
Mhm.
it's all student teacher relationships. But in the modern day and age, it's a way different thing. And I think that would be a great topic to talk about at times. is just like the modern dynamics of what we've become. We've become, it's sad to say, and it really frustrates me tremendously, but we're more of a commodity. We're categorized more as a coach or instructor, but not looked at like you and I looked at our instructors back in the day.
Right.
Right. Like, I mean, we could go into that, but it was just like nowadays it's a lot different. And to the point where it's kind of almost demotivating at times, for a teacher, where I quite often ask myself, is it time to retire? Should I get out and just enjoy the rest of my life as much as I can? But, not deal with the normal daily stresses of running a school.
Right. No, I totally understand where you're getting from. I've only been doing this officially. I've been teaching since the age of 14.
Right.
But having my own studio, I've had it for 10 years. And I feel like saying I'm going to retire as well.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. But you know what? At least I started in 1991, so I had a good period of time where it was really different, right? So you kind of been brought up and started running a school in the era where it started to become more and more difficult to run. And I think that's that's hard these days. Many of the schools that I know, school owners that are just starting, they have a whole different dynamic of mind and people and mindset to deal with than I did back in 2000, or 1991 when I first started.
Yeah, I would agree. Now my dog's barking.
That's okay. Yeah, as long as the listeners don't care, they know that we're normal people and we're running, this podcast out of our home offices.
Right.
Maybe eventually it'll become so popular that we'll have our own office like Joe Rogan has, where he just does his podcast out of.
Right. Hold on one second. I'm going to close the door here.
Yeah, sure. Of course. Yeah. So for those that are listening too, while we have a little pause in time, while Lewis closed the door, is that the martial art era that we're in right now is much different than it was back in 1991, back in 1981, back in 1971. Right? It's a different type of clientele, different type of student, different type of mentality. And that's the hard part, is dealing with that, because for me, especially for me, I grew up in that era and I want to keep that going. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose the, training, the way I was trained and the way I taught for 25, 30 years, right? I want to keep that going, and I want to be able to share that with my students, but sometimes it's difficult. It's not easy to do. And when Lewis gets back in, we could discuss that a little bit more and talk about the pitfalls or the ins and the outs of being a modern day martial artist and a martial art teacher. So I think that's an important thing to distinguish, throughout our podcast, because we're calling our podcast, Kuden, right? That's like secret teachings, right? The private teachings that go out to the students that are selected. It's not something that you give to just everyone. Like when I trained with Tanimura Sensei in Japan, he had his groups of people that were his inner circle. Then, of course, he had his mass of students. And I had that with all my teachers. You tend to get, if you can, get yourself in that group of, special students, right? And you have to work yourself into that group. I don't know if you could hear, I was talking the whole entire time, and I really was just chatting about the different mindset of what it is nowadays. And, I was talking about the old days when I say that, back when I trained, when I was a kid, the dedication we had to our style. Also, the understanding that we were lucky to be students. We weren't just going to drop, our down payment and bring our kid in to train. And it was all owed to us. Like, even though we paid tuition, we had to gain trust of the teacher,
Right.
gain respect of the teacher so that I could be like, if I wanted to be in the top echelon of his students, I'd have to be, dedicated and show that loyalty and show that honor and integrity. And nowadays, everyone just thinks, hey, let me just pay some They don't understand. That's the problem. Let me just
Yeah.
pay some tuition. Okay, I'm going to join your school. That's great. How much is it? Like, biggest question, right? Okay, it's X amount of dollars. Okay, great. I'll give you the money. And they think that everything is purchased like you went to Target to buy a backpack, right? It's not.
Right.
That's not how it used to be in the martial arts, but that's the way people think nowadays.
Yeah, it's still kind of like that for me nowadays. I would my teacher's in Japan, and you know him very well, and
Yes.
um, if he would say, Lewis, I need you to come to Japan like right now because I have a problem, and
Right.
I need help fixing it or whatever. I would drop whatever I was doing and go to
Yeah.
Japan, you
Yeah.
know. Or if he's, whatever he asked of me, I would say, as long as it's not unethical, right?
Right. Right.
Um, I would say, absolutely, I'll get it done.
Yeah.
You put trust in your teacher, and I feel like, and that's one of the most frustrating things about being a martial arts school learner is, you try to guide your students,
Yeah.
right? You try to tell them this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
This is what you need to be learning, and
Hmm.
then they think because they're reading online or they're watching some YouTube videos or whatever, they're self educating themselves,
Hmm.
um, that, oh no, I know more than you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
I've been doing this since I was 6 years old. You know what I
Right.
mean? You don't know more than me, and
Right.
that's a matter of fact. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
um, but I don't know what happened to our
I
screen
think
here.
I just hit a button. I thought I was gonna expand my screen. There we go. We're back. Um, I'm learning this software. This is your software, but I understand what you're saying, and it's kind of interesting. Like, I often talk about the scene from Rocky One, where Sylvester Stallone is walking with this local girl that he knows, that's kind of like family friend in the neighborhood, and he's talking to her about how she's smoking and hanging out with the wrong guys and she's doing the wrong thing and she's going to get looked at terribly. And he walks her home and he feels like he's really impacted her with his knowledge and his speech, right?
Mhm.
And so she goes in the house, and as he's walking away, he's feeling pumped and proud of being that guy who guided this young girl who needed to be guided.
Right.
And then she opens the door and he opens and says, "Hey, Rocky." And he turns around and he's like looking for that pride because she's going to go, "Thank you, Rocky. You changed my life." And she goes, "Screw you, Rocky," and slams the door. And then he keeps on walking and he goes basically like, "Yeah, like, who am I? Screw me. Like, what do I know? Why would she listen to me?" And I kind of find that, like, I had a situation just recently where I was talking to a mom about their child, and I'm just trying to move them up from the younger kids class because she's actually older, the kid, and I wanted to move her up to the older kid class because, number one, she's talented and she could do it.
Mhm.
Number two, she'd be way more challenged, right? Number three, I just think it would be better for the overall class because she's like the biggest kid in the class. And I thought I had a really fruitful conversation with the mom, right? And I'm like, wow, I felt proud of our conversation. I said to her at one point, I said, quite often parents hold their kids back because they're afraid, or quite often they may try to protect them and keep them and let them grow on their own time. And
Mhm.
I said, sometimes you need to push. And so she's like, "Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah." The mom was fine with that. And then the next thing I know, the class ends. I taught a 45-minute class. The class ends and there's a dad. The dad is there with a really sour puss on his face. He said, "I need to have a talk with you." And I'm like, "Okay, let's chat." So I bring him in my office. I'm thinking that things are great. And he goes, "Well, I agree with you that she should move up." He goes, "I don't really like that you told my wife, like, you're telling her how to parent and you're telling her how to be a better mom." I'm like, "Dude, I understand this. I've been doing it for 34 years. Sometimes parents also need coaching as well. And I just want your kid to do better." Like, my ultimate goal,
Right.
I get paid the same amount, whether they're in the little kid class or the bigger kid class, right? I get the same thing. If they're happy, I'm happy, right? But at the same time, I'm trying to encourage them to go beyond where they're at. And I ended up getting kicked in the teeth for it, right? Like, because I just tried to help. And
Right.
then I said to myself, like Rocky, I was all deflated. I'm like, this is crap. Like, I can't believe that I have to deal with this stuff. Like, like, and I said to the dad, I said, what do I know? I've only been doing this for 55 years. Like, what do
Right.
I know? I've only been running a school for 34 years. Do you think you're the first person I had to have this conversation with? I just want the best for your child.
Right.
Right. And it's so demotivating at times.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. The thing I don't understand is, right, if you had those same parents and they took their kid, say there was, something wrong with the kid and the kid had to go to a psychiatrist or something like that,
Right.
right? And the psychiatrist said, um, "Hey, this is what you need to do to fix,
Right. This is what I
your kid."
recommend. Yeah.
Yeah, they would say, "Okay, yeah, we'll
Right.
do that. We'll try that." Right? They
Exactly.
wouldn't say, "What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You don't know my kid." Or
Right.
like if you took your kid to the doctor, something was wrong with your kid or whatever. Would you tell the doctor, "Oh, no, you're incorrect. I know what's
Right.
best for my child." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm
Although
sure,
I have done that before, when it
yeah,
comes to certain vaccination recommendations and things like that. But I agree with you 100%. They look at that doctor, the psychologist, the whoever as the authority,
right,
right? And they trust their opinion because they have all the accolades that says they should.
right,
Right. And then meanwhile, I think though, like they join our school. And again, it goes back to us being a school, and there's a school on every corner nowadays, right? And it doesn't, like, I don't think 95% of my parents even care that I'm a 8th degree black belt and I've trained for my entire life and I've been to Japan and blah, 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 right? They're like, okay, well, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going down the road. And you do realize the guy down the road has got like very minimal experience. They haven't had the in-depth training. They don't have the experience that I have. However, they most majority of people, even adult students, don't really give a crap.
right. No, yeah,
Shame.
I was just gonna ask that. The adults are sometimes worse.
Yeah.
But again, like I think it's the mentality, especially with parents. Going back to what you just said, is you think of like recreational sports, and I'm not talking about like hardcore like college sports. I'm talking about like recreational little league
Yeah.
type sports
Right.
where the dads are volunteer coaches. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Things, that type of situation. They may have been coaching for a couple years, things like that. No,
Yeah.
we've been teaching martial arts to kids and adults
Yeah.
for, I'm going on 20 plus years. You're
Right.
going on 50 plus
Yeah.
years.
Right.
You know, um, if they gave out a doctrine for our kind of stuff, we would
Yeah.
have it.
Yeah. That's why, that's why a lot of these martial artists started calling themselves Dr. So and so, Professor so and so, because they felt like, look, I've done this way longer than most doctors, more
Yeah.
lawyers, more, whoever, and they have this big degree on their wall that's highly respected. And all I get is, oh, you're a karate guy. The biggest, I'm sure you get it too. Oh, I hope that I would be with you if I had to get in a fight in a dark alley, like,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And I'm like, okay. But like, it's all about that credibility. I'll give you another example. Like I've written a bunch of books and I have 2 books that I'm finishing soon and they'll be coming out this year. But I once heard parents going back and forth with a conversation about looking for a book for their kid to read. And I said, oh, I have a really good kids book. That's an adventure story. It's fun. It ties the dojo into the thing. And it's really cool adventure. The mom turns to me and says, oh, no, we're looking for a real book. And I'm like, okay. And I literally said, okay, with a slow turn and just walked away. And I'm like, what do you do in that case? Do I then now have to sell her on why my book is real and good? Or, like, it's just funny at how they look at you, and they don't see that. Like years ago, dude, I revered my teachers. Like, Xian Vasquez, to this day, I still literally in my heart love the man and feel like a connection to him.
Mhm.
And I just released a video of him just the other day of him doing a demo that I had on tape that I wanted the world to see. Right. And I still, even though I'm not in contact with Tanimura Sensei anymore, due to politics and, all of that stuff in the martial arts and the crap that goes on behind the scenes, I miss the man every day. Like I enjoyed being his student, traveling to Japan. Like when I would see him, and I try to explain this to my students, and I bowed which most people think a bow is just something you do, I
Hmm.
could feel it in my heart. Like I felt like if my dad I hadn't seen, or a friend or somebody in years, and then I saw him coming off the plane, and I want to run up and give him a huge hug, like a daughter or a son would do with their parent, right? That's how my bow felt when I bowed to my teacher. I felt that reverence, that love, that feeling of care, and I really like that. That was a true feeling, and I think that that's missing in this world as well.
Yeah, it's almost like I feel the same way when I bow to my teacher. It's like a obviously student teacher connection, but it's
Yeah,
beyond that.
yeah,
It's it's like father son, it's
yeah.
friendship, it's everything, love,
Admiration and love.
admiration.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I get sometimes when I bow to my teacher, sometimes I get goosebumps. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And
I understand.
not just because like I put him on a pedestal, that's
Right.
not what it is. It's because I know that this person wants to make me better every day.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
why, like it's funny that you said that. It's not like I put him on a pedestal, because I believe that you have to kind of clarify that you're not idol worshiping him, just so
Right.
that you don't seem like a lunatic, right? Like,
Right.
but I put my teachers on pedestals, like I do, and that's perfect to do that, because, like, for example, if I got advice, I want to do financial advice. I don't go down to the local homeless shelter and ask people that are sleeping under the bridge or whatever how to invest my money, right? I'll go to an expert. And if that expert tells me, like somebody who's made millions or billions, right? And he tells me, do this, I'm going to do it because I believe in him, right? So
Mhm.
that's why I think that a lot of people, and I've had this, once I had a big argument with the dad. I eventually ended up getting really nasty over a course of a few weeks, and I ended up kicking him out of my school. But he goes like, oh, because I mentioned about showing reverence to your teachers, right? And he's like, oh yeah, you just want people to bow to you. And I go, I could literally honestly care less whether you bow, whether you like me, whether you want me to, I don't need any of that stuff. All I care about is the connection with your child and so that they can have a better understanding. And you don't get that unless you have reverence for the teacher and respect and admiration and all
Right.
that.
It's a
You don't,
discipline aspect too.
yeah,
You know,
you don't even get a small portion of what you will be getting if you felt that way.
if everybody else is bowing, but you or your kid is not,
Right.
they're not disciplined. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that it's just, the point of the matter. It's you're teaching discipline. Everybody's in the same uniform.
Yeah.
Everybody bows,
Right.
everybody does XYZ. There's
Right.
rules of the school and those rules need to be followed.
Yeah.
That's, I
Well,
always
that's
tell,
one aspect, right? Like
right,
that's part of the protocol, right? Which
right.
that's also being lost in modern day schools. There are forums, on different martial art forums that say, should we bow? Should we wear a uniform? Should we call our instructor sensei or just coach or Hank or whatever? Like, I feel like the very essence of the martial arts starts with those bows, starts with that protocol, starts with that discipline and how they act in their lives. Like, I'll give you an example. I was in Japan once with my teacher, and we were at a restaurant. It was up in Nikko Mountain. It was a really nice rural restaurant, and we ordered our stuff, and the girl went on to another table, and then like 45 minutes went by, and we didn't get served. So my teacher, Tanimura Sensei, called her over, and she's like, oh, I forgot, like kind of like almost like non-Japanese, like an American kind of attitude in a way.
Mhm.
Man, Sensei laid into her, like, and he made her, she was crying after like 5 minutes. And he didn't let up. And then she was bowing and crying, full tears running down her face. And I was like very uncomfortable. Like, I felt bad for this younger girl. And then I said, Sensei, what happened? Like, why were you so hard on her? He goes, because if I didn't do it, she would have never learned that lesson. And this is going to be the best lesson she ever learned, to be respectful of people's time and respectful of her elders and to treat the customers correctly. And that was that old martial art etiquette that he was actually teaching this non-martial art girl, but a Japanese girl.
Right.
And that's part of the culture. And I was like, wow, like in our life, hey, listen, I don't want mayo on my sandwich. I asked for no mayo. They take it and scrape it on the table and slap the bread back and go, here, no more mayo. Like, people don't give a crap. They just treat you like crap, right? Like,
Right.
That's what the problem is in our world today. There's no common respect. There's no fear. There's no, even with cops, man, that throwing stuff at cops, attacking cops, treating them badly. They pull them over for speeding. I don't have to give you my license. And, they're all like backseat lawyers. And I'm like, it's because that healthy fear of, it's coming back though. I like that it's
Yeah.
coming back,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I think that needs to be done. And, that's the martial arts is missing that nowadays. Some
No,
schools have it still.
I agree. What about, and I'm sure you've definitely ran into this multiple times in your schools, like adult students thinking that they can run the school better than you can.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a lot. Look, if you talked to me in 1991 and had this conversation, it would be way different, right? Like, or 95 or even 2000, right? Or 2010, I was a different person back then. Like, I really was like a hardcore, it's the old saying, my way or the highway it stood, totally 100% true. If you didn't do it my way, I would kick you out of the school. Or you'd get a beating in class, or you'd learn the hard way if you really wanted to train. But yeah, I think though that I think that we have to remember that we have to understand as teachers, like, what kind of school do we want to run? Do we want to run a commercially successful school with thousands of students and like sell our principles and ethics away just to make the money and have the students and not be as hard on them? Or do we want to have that school where people are learning the old way, the traditional way, the real way, in my opinion, the real way, and we have less students but more more dedicated and loyal? You might have to go through 1,000 people to find 200 of those nowadays.
Yeah. No,
Did that answer your question, or did I kind of go on a tangent?
No, yeah. I was just I've had several situations where students, this usually happens with like adult students, not really like parents, but adult students thinking they can run the school better than you. You know, because they want it their way.
Yeah.
Right. And what most people don't understand is we pay more bills in 1 month than a good working American makes in a year.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot involved with that. There's, employees, and there's keeping the lights on and things like that. So, I will always make the best decision for the, for the
dojo,
the growth of this dojo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
So to answer that question more accurately, I would say just the other day I had we have a really good demo team and they perform all the time, and we just performed at a minor league baseball game before the actual game started, right? And my team did really well. I mean, they're a great team. The guy who runs the team for me works super hard. I'm very proud of him. He grew up in my school. He was like 4 years old. He's like 18, just started his first year in school. But as people grow and they start to get complacent, they get used to you, they start to not respect you as much. So I had a lot of little minor pieces of advice that I'll say, like, not criticisms, but things that I thought would make the team demo even better. So I met with the instructor and I tried to go over it with him, and he got upset. He honestly was really rude. He told me that he thought that it was like a slap in the face of me telling him all this stuff. And I'm like, but I wrote in the letter before I sent it to him with all the different ideas. I said, I want you to know I'm super proud of you and you're doing a great job. These are just some suggestions that I think could make the team even better, to enhance what you're already doing. And, so I came in to meet with the demo team, and he kind of was a little bit, had an attitude. He walked out the room without permission and just walked off the floor. And I got up. I don't want to stress myself out. I said to the demo team, just go practice, guys. Have a great practice. I came in on a night that I normally never come in. I bowed to the students. They bowed back, and I left. I went in my car and went home. I'm like, I didn't need to be there because I had my other head instructor. He was waiting for the demo practice to end. Then he would run classes, right? So anyway, long story short, that's just an example of someone who's gotten used to you or gotten complacent, who doesn't revere you as much anymore, who thinks that they know better, or they didn't want to just be the student and be humble to say, even if I don't agree, I should listen because he's the head teacher. It's his school, it's his students, that kind of thing. But I try to keep it open so people could be free to express themselves and for them to grow as martial artists. But to answer your question from before, sometimes they grow to the point where they feel they no longer need you. Now they're going to go
Mhm.
out, steal your students. And I've had this happen to me multiple times, open up another school on their own, take your students with them. And thinking that they were owed that, and that yeah, well, he didn't treat me well, that kind of thing, and I'm going to just do it on my own now.
Right.
Like why not work through the problem and fix the situation and then have a great relationship together and
Right.
grow together and give back? Like I look at it like give back to your sensei.
Right. No, I agree. What about like memorable moments, like ones that kind of make you keep wanting to do this?
Well, I'm always reminded when I have these adorable younger students that are just like that, they write you a letter or they make you a card, or like what they hug you after class. Those are the things that keep me going. I have a lot less of the older kids and adults and teens nowadays doing that kind of thing. Although I've had back in the day, I would have people every Saturday that I taught, that parents would bring me breakfast. Like one of the dads would just, even though that he did it because he came from the culture, he was Sikh Indian, and that's what they would do. They would give their teachers presents, right? They would bring them food, drinks, whatever. So that was kind of cool. But really, I think though my memorable moments were with my teachers when I trained with them. So all the politics aside, I was just with my teacher and I had that one-on-one relationship. Like Tuhan Sayak, he ended up living with me for like a year in my house. And when I was a kid, so I had Mr. Miyagi in my house. Like he'd wake me up at 3 a.m, take me out in the backyard and have me do crazy stuff, right? And shoot arrows at me and make me climb up a tree and climb down upside down. And he'd be holding the arrow. If I didn't do it, he'd shoot at me. Like it was like what you'd see in like a ninja movie, right? And I thought that was the coolest thing ever, right?
Right.
But I love training with him. Like my admiration and feeling for him to this day is, he's not around anymore. He passed away. But I still to this day feel that, like when I speak of him, I feel that love in my heart. Like that was great. Just having that time, like about a year, 14 months of him being there, like me having my own Mr. Miyagi in my house. I'd go to school, I'd play in my band, and he'd teach me martial arts. Like everything, we'd be eating, we'd be talking martial arts. He'd take me in the backyard, we'd be stick fighting or knife parrying or whatever. And my mom, I don't know what was wrong with her. Maybe I'm happy that she did it, but she would allow it. Like, she'd be watching needle pointing while he's shooting arrows at her kid in the backyard. Just imagine that nowadays. That would
Wow,
never fly, right?
that's
But
crazy.
but it
Yeah.
was just the greatest thing. And then with Tanimura Sensei, I would travel to Japan. I've been there 17 times. I lived in his apartments over there, and him and I would ride bikes together, go to Nikko Mountain together, go to Osaka together. And him and I one-on-one would just spend a lot of time together, just in normal, average, everyday life. He'd take me shopping for VCR, he was going to buy, like whatever. It was just those moments in time where I was bonding that was just so amazing.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me it's when a student really gets it in the sense of, okay, all right, I'm going to come to class always with my cup half full, right?
Yeah.
No matter what happens outside, today or whatever, and then, they come into class, they put in good effort, right? And then they go home and they put at least a little bit of effort at home, whether that's practicing, studying, things of that nature. And then like they progress through the ranks, and it's not difficult for them because the light bulb is on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then like they get their black belt and they continue to get multiple black belts after that.
Yeah.
That's when I see that type of I guess work ethic,
Right.
that's what keeps me coming back. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
because trust me, I could close my school tomorrow
Right.
and make good money, doing something in sales. I've done sales
Right.
my entire life.
Right.
I can go sell whatever,
Yeah.
right? But what keeps me going is those handful of students that
Yeah.
just want more
Yeah.
and keep going and keep training, and they study at home, and they really listen to your advice.
Right.
Hey, this is what you need to do to get to here.
Right.
Okay, hi sensei. Yes, and then they go do it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what keeps me
Yeah,
going.
I find that interesting though too, because like that's why we teach. Like I'll give you an example. I remember years ago I had a class that and my classes were normally packed. So I had a night where there was not hardly anybody there. Like maybe like 10 or 20 people when I normally had 50 or something, right? So I'm like lecturing the students. Like I'm like literally mad at them, right? Like I'm yelling at the students about how all the other people didn't show and they should be here, they should be dedicated. One of the guys, an older gentleman, I think he was a very successful stockbroker. He said, at the time I probably was a sensei or a renshi. He goes, sensei, you do realize that we're the ones that are here and you're yelling at us. Those people that are not here don't know what you're saying. They don't know you're mad at them. He
Right.
goes, but we're here. Don't be mad at us. And I'm like, you know what? I literally had a light go off in my head and it snapped in me. I'm like, you know what? I'm upset with the people that are there and they're the ones that are doing exactly what I want, showing up. So I gave them the best class of their life, So that's something that we need to do on a regular basis, right? So that
Right.
we have to remember that we're there to teach because we love to teach. I've promoted close to 250 black belts in my career so far in my school. And a funny story, just the other day, I was talking to my class and someone said, oh, someone's dropping off a pair of sai. They no longer they're going to use them. They want to donate it to the school. So I walked out and I'm like, who are you? And he tells me his name. And I'm like, I remember you as a little kid. Like he was like maybe like 10. He's now in his scrubs. And I go, what do you do for a living? He goes, oh, I'm a PA. I'm a doctor now. And and he was
Wow.
bringing his sais back because he's not going to use them. Right. But he said, maybe someone else can use them. And I asked him if the martial arts changed his life. It helped him in school. He said, yeah, a lot of the things he used to say and do stuck with me throughout college and getting through my degree and passing the medical exam and all that. So I was like, hey, dude, if you could ever put a testimonial up on our Google or our Facebook page and let people know how you feel. But it was so cool to see him as an adult, all grown up, good looking doctor, like it was just amazing. And he felt like he was coming back. But that's the first time I had saw him in like 25 years. Right.
Yeah.
Like, so,
And it meant a lot to him during that time period in his life, because if it didn't, he would have just threw the sai away,
yeah, exactly.
or sold them on marketplace or whatever.
Right.
But no, he
Right.
wanted to give back to
I thought it was really
students.
cool. And I came home and told my wife and I was excited about it and happy. But those are the times, like you said, that keep us going, right? Those things, those little things that when the light goes on, or you have a great test, or someone really does well, or they make a good decision based on the lessons you've taught them, not to fight, not to do drugs, whatever it may be. And the martial arts was a big part of that.
Gotcha. I'm sorry if you guys hear any noise. I have a company cleaning the gutters of my house right now.
I don't hear anything
Okay.
myself. So.
Okay, good. That's basically why my dogs were going nuts, but they just showed up.
Sounds perfectly fine.
So I guess we both teach pretty much the same style. Ninjutsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu, Nimpo.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think it's at today versus where it was when you started? Because you started way before I did.
I think though that there's been a real that over the years. Like I'll give an example. Right before we got on the podcast, I had a gentleman that I know for like 35, 40 years that is a big fight promoter. And I see his number and I pick up the phone always. And we talked for like 25 minutes. He was looking to see if I have any fighters that could fight. And I was like, Sensei, I don't have many adults anymore that I could just put it in there. Years ago, I'd be like, you're fighting on, October 10th. That's, okay, sir, no problem. I'll start training, right? Like that kind of thing. Nowadays, I don't even have adults that are interested and that would even do it. Like you said before, like where people, they don't really, like if I needed to get help, I have a good amount of people that I could depend on that will help me. But you said your teacher, if he said, I need you, you would jump on a plane and fly to Japan. I sometimes have people that won't even take an hour and a half out of their day to come and help when I'm in a bind, like that kind of thing, where they just they won't do it. They're not really interested. Right. So it's very difficult nowadays to teach that. And I gave you an article. We won't talk about it now, but maybe on a future podcast on what they call giri. Giri is like loyalty. And, rather than going into detail, it's like the giri. And here's a perfect example of the word giri is loyalty and dedication to your teachers, no matter what. And Stephen Hayes, we were chatting and he said to me, it really should be called more like a gimme rather than giri now, right? Like he says, it's more of a gimme society rather than a giri society.
Yep.
So, it's quite interesting at how things have changed over the years to what it is now. And, it is disheartening, but at the same time, like I always constantly say to myself, what can I do to teach those that I have to be like they used to be so they could get that valuable lesson like they used to get much easier.
Right.
And I always try to work on that.
So question for you. So going back to what you just said about adult students fighting and things like that, right? So we teach the Japanese martial arts. We also teach Krav Maga as well. Because we brought that in to give people a little taste of kind of like modern martial arts, but most of them, if they really did their homework, it's really Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Right.
So, but anyway, we're having a tournament, an in-school tournament going on the end of this month. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my adult students didn't even sign up.
Right.
And we're like, well, why wouldn't you want to sign up? Like, why wouldn't you want to learn, and almost every adult that walks in my school, 99% of the time, they want to learn self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's something else. Either they want to be fit or stay fit or whatever, or they want a social group. They want to be a part of social group, right? But it's always self-defense is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know if you're good at self-defense if you don't compete at all?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's something that I've been saying for 30 years. Like my students, I used to make it mandatory that if they were going to get their belt, they had to compete in at least 2 tournaments a year. It's mandatory. Mm-hmm. I lost many students over that because it's almost like, the biggest fear is public speaking, and people would rather die than speak in public, or they would rather drown than speak in public. Like it's that paralyzing, that fear. But I think it goes much deeper than that nowadays, because it's like almost like where everyone, and by the way, I'll give people credit for credit is due, that they're also inundated with so many things. They're all so busy. We normally have these events on a weekend where they probably would have their day off or spend time with their family, or they're just fearful. Like my wife, when she trained in my school, she look, she's my wife, so I'm going to protect her, watch over her, make sure she has the best partners she's taken care of, right? Like literally. So she said to me, though, it was the most intimidating thing that she's ever done in her entire life was come to her first class or 2.
Wow.
And I look at that and go like, how? I'm literally could hold your hand through the whole entire experience. It's just the way people feel, like adults nowadays, right? They have this anxiety about, performing poorly or not being smart or not doing what they have to do. And then like I have a young guy who just moved, so he's no longer training. He came back after years, and then he started training, and then he got a job transfer. So, but he said to me, he goes, one thing that was frustrating for me was that I had to start back off at a beginner level. Like I needed to wear, because we wear sweatpants and a t-shirt, then they have to earn their gi, then they have to earn their belt. Mm-hmm. So he goes, yeah, that was very demotivating for me. And I said, why? He's like, well, I wanted to be in the white belt like everyone else. I said, yeah, I want to have a Ferrari. I don't have one. I'm like, I want to fight Mike Tyson, but it'll kill me, so I'm not gonna. Like,
Right.
like there's a lot of wants in the world, but sometimes you just got to deal with it and do what you got to do and to get through it. But people are not willing to do that nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. It's frustrating because like I've learned from a young age, and maybe that it's because of my martial training because I've competed a ton. I mean, I haven't competed in years. I have, which that's going to change soon. I
Good. We
think
got
I
to
should.
get your guys, all your students, to our tournament circuit.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think I was taught from a young age, like you learn through failure.
of
You know what I
course.
mean? Like you're gonna like I take Brazilian jiu-jitsu as well now, right?
Yeah,
I'm a white belt. I started maybe 8 months ago or so.
great.
And I
Congratulations.
get tapped out all the time. But I
Yeah,
know that it's because the guys I'm going up against have been doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu for 10 plus years.
right, right.
So I'm in their ring, their game, right?
Yeah,
And I just have to learn the game, right?
yeah, right.
So, but I just can't understand why like us humans like we're so afraid to do something different,
Yeah,
to expect to go into something and be like, hey, yeah, I might get my butt whooped,
right.
but I'm gonna learn what I did good, what I did
Yeah.
bad, and for the next time I'll know, okay, I need to improve on this,
Yeah,
right?
it's interesting. I think the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people were like geniuses in selling the mindset that it takes like 10 years to become like a purple belt. Like, and you could be amazing at purple belt, right? So
Yeah,
like people weren't like in my school, like I didn't get my yellow belt. My kid's very demotivated. I'm like, well, he's not ready yet. So like have him practice more, do better, get a private lesson, do whatever you got to do, but don't whine and complain about it. Like that's not going to get you anywhere, right? Like
right,
a lot of times my favorite line I love when a parent says, my kid, I want to know why my kid hasn't gotten their next belt. And I say, that's a good question. Why hasn't your kid gotten their next belt? And they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, do you know what they're required to do, what they need to do, what they need to learn? Or are you just wondering because they've been there for a period of time?
yeah,
Right. And it's like, this Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you anticipate that it's going to take you years and years and years. And there's not a heavy curriculum. You
right,
roll and you learn little moves here and there, nuances, and you just build upon your arsenal of tools so that you become really good. But it's not like our styles. Like you're learning, ogyaku, you're learning omote gyaku, kote gyaku, all these techniques that are ura kote gyaku, like, and different, like a whole syllabus of techniques that they have to learn, like going to a college education or, learning, getting a doctorate degree.
right,
So that becomes a little arduous for people. They don't want to put that time and effort into studying and practicing and so on.
right. Yeah, I agree. It's totally different. I think regular school kind of ruined that as well for
Yeah,
martial arts schools because in regular school, like nobody really fails anymore.
right, right.
Nobody really gets held back.
Yeah,
Um, nobody depending on age, they don't get Fs
right,
anymore. They don't
right.
get D's anymore. They don't get
Yeah,
C's anymore.
right,
It's so it's like you're just because you put in the time, you come to class, you do your class once or twice a week that, oh, I deserve my belt.
right.
You could look completely like crap because you're not
Yeah,
putting in the same effort as the students next to you.
yeah,
But oh no, I deserve the belt because
yeah,
9 other students are getting their belts. You know
right.
what I mean?
Look, I was never very good at math, and throughout high school, I struggled in junior high and all that. And then my daughter was not very good at math, and I had a choice: blame the school and let her be stupid,
Mhm.
or come up with a solution. Because even though the school wasn't doing their job to teach her for whatever reason, maybe they didn't have enough time, she needed a lot of extra help. So I brought her to a tutor and got her to learn from the tutor. I paid a lot of money to do it, but I didn't want to say, okay, well, it's okay. My daughter's stupid. She can't do math. I
Mhm.
wanted to say she couldn't do it, but now she can because we did whatever we could to get her to learn the things she needed to learn. It was my responsibility. So it's the same as you and I as instructors. It's our responsibility to teach our students. But if they don't want to listen and learn, what can we do? Like, like if they don't want to go home and practice, like I'll show kids how to do a particular move, right? Like even like a draw of a sword and how to chiburi and noto, like clean the blood and put it away the specific way. And I should show them, they do it once or twice. I walk away. They just back to doing it exactly the way they wanted. Like they have no care. Like I had a girl compete in a tournament not too long ago. And I had gone over and over again what I wanted her to do, her self-defense routine. When she did it in the tournament, she did it the wrong way. And she was sitting getting consoled by one of the other instructors, not from my school, but another instructor. You did a good job. I'm like, yeah. I walked up. I'm like, her instructor must be an idiot. I said to the other instructor, and I go, he must be an idiot that he didn't teach her this like 50 times. And he looked at me like, how dare I go, no, she's my student. I'm the idiot because I taught her like 50 times and she still didn't listen to you. Listen to me. Now she's complaining about why she didn't do well.
Right.
Like, so what can we do? It's hard, right? Like it's difficult.
One of my pet peeves, and I don't know where students get this because I tell them, hey, don't do this multiple times and they still do it.
Yeah.
Is right. You'll show them a technique and they'll drill it with their partner. They'll do it, 3 times or so. And some of them might go and take notes and stuff. Some of them don't, right? Which also is a pet peeve of mine because you're not going to remember everything.
Right.
Right. But anyway, they'll practice it 3 times and they'll just stand there.
Yeah. I got it down. I learned it. I'm done. I'm like,
okay. And I'm like, I'll usually be like, keep going. Like I have never, ever did a technique 3 times and just stood there waiting for my sensei to teach me the next technique. No, you keep drilling it till he moves on to the next technique. Right.
Yeah.
Like I
tell people that all the time, dude. I'm like, we got to pressure test stuff to the point where if it happens in the street when you're nervous and your mind is thrown off and people are attacking you, trying to really hurt you, if you don't practice hard like whatever you do in the dojo, if you work at 80%, you're probably going to do 30% in a real world.
Right.
Right. And if you haven't practiced it enough enough to make it muscle memory, you're going to get beat up. Right. Mm-hmm. Like you're not going to be able to handle it. So, but then again, it's a shame because like, again, we do this as teachers and we talk and, I guess maybe it's me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, I need to adapt to the new age. Right. Like, so, but
I don't think it's you because I run into the same problems. Mm-hmm. And I think most, I talk to several different martial arts school owners around the country, around the world. And, it's definitely not us.
Right.
I think we find it difficult because all of us that are teachers these days, we were taught a certain way. So I think there is a little bit of adapting that needs to be had by us. You know what I mean? Because as the years go by, it's a different type of student, right? Mm-hmm. Like I know nowadays a lot of people are visual learners, right?
Right.
So I think you're the one that gave me this idea. I can't remember
the video of the techniques.
Yeah, the video of the techniques. So that's one of my future plans is to video pretty much every technique and put it in a digital library so students can look it up and practice. So, and I was kind of totally against that because that's not the way I was taught, right? You were taught the technique, you had to memorize it, you had to write it down, and then that was it. There was no videos, right?
Yeah, well, I remember with Tanimura Sensei, you had to buy the videos too. Like, I'd go to Japan and I'd come home with $5,000 worth of videos, and it wasn't by choice. It'd be like, okay, here are the videos, boom, and pay me when you get home. And I'm like, okay, that goes $5,000 in videos, right? But I agree though. I was not a believer either. And my guy that runs the school for me when I'm not there and when I am there too, he's my main guy. He made all these videos and he's like got the kids in the corner working on the kata. And I'm like, this is crap. Like I'm ready to yell at him. Right. And then I had an epiphany and I'm watching them watch and learn better than they would if there was an actual physical instructor in front of them. And I'm going, man, he's onto something. Like, and that's what we do. We have all the katas filmed on the computer. We have a computer monitor in the classroom. They walk over, they select the kata, boom, play it, and they practice along with it. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I mean, I could do this with everything. And I just go sit in the lobby with the parents, but we only do that for the kata and the weapons forms.
Um, do any of the parents or adult students give you like a crap for that? Like, I guess like
No,
oh like I pay you to teach my students. Why are
no,
they
not
learning?
really.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Half of them don't pay attention anyway to what we're doing, but then the other half are watching. Or we have video cameras in our lobby, and they sit and they watch and they chat and so on. They're not. I used to have people years and years ago, like, oh, you only did a 42-minute class and still a 45. Like on the clock watching everything that I did. But those people I got rid of because, like, I'm not going to be monitored by people for stupid little things like that. But most of these parents, all they care about is their kid learning. So here's a quick thing. So if you're an instructor and you really want your students to be amazing, you have to communicate that with the parents, and you have to determine what kind of family they are, what kind of parents and child they are. Do they really want to learn or do they not? So like if they haven't been promoted and they're upset about it, we want to talk before they get upset. We want to reach out to them and say, listen, you should do a series of private lessons. I think you'd benefit. Little Johnny would benefit by doing like 4 or 5. Well, let's start with 3. And if you need 3 more, we'll do them so that we could get them over the hump to get them ready. It's like you would do an SAT, prep class, and you learn how to actually take the SAT and pass it, right?
Right.
Most of the time people forget like right afterwards because they cram, do the test, pass, and forget. Right. So we want to monitor our students to the point where they're working hard at what they need. We give them more, but we also go back and make sure they remember what they used to have as well.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I had an adult student, recently. He quit, recently, but, he was a good martial artist because he was athletic,
Yeah.
but he quit right before his black belt test.
Wow.
And it was because he didn't remember. For my black belt test, you need to recall everything you've learned, right?
Right.
Plus,
Right.
plus the additional techniques for first degree, right?
Right.
So he didn't recall anything, because he would always cram, right? At the end, and he would just pass, right?
Right.
Because his test was good enough, and then he would just forget about it.
Right.
And then, so when it came time for black belt, he just didn't want to do the work anymore, and he also like forgot most of the Japanese, right?
Yeah.
So if I told him, "Hey, do omote kote gyaku," he'd look at me like, "I don't know what you're talking
Right.
about."
Right.
And I'm like, I sat him down. I sat him down multiple times, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, like, I really need you to do better because you're good at this, but I just need some more effort from you, like, kind of outside of here. Like, and I can't make you memorize this stuff. You know what I mean?"
Right.
And he quit. He quit right before black, and because he didn't want to put in the work. It's crazy to me.
What's interesting though, a little bit of advice for you and even for myself. I remember teaching a neurosurgeon. He was my student for like a year and a half, and he couldn't make it to class often, so he'd show up once every week or 2, and I'd always send him these motivational letters, like, listen, you could do better, because we would categorize our students in A, B, and C. The A students came to everything. The B students came to most of the stuff. The C students were barely making it. So he was coming up for renewal, and I said, so how you doing? Are you going to continue? He's like, no, I don't think so. And I'm like, why? I thought you loved what you're doing. He goes, oh, I do love it. He goes, but I can't make it here the way you want me to. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, I'm a neurosurgeon. He goes, and I work a lot. And I also, I come here because I enjoy it, but it doesn't seem like I'm coming enough for you to be satisfied. And I don't want to disappoint you. And I know I'm not going to progress. Right. So I said to myself, like, wow. He goes, I'm fine with the 1 day a week. I'm okay with that. I don't need to have a new belt, a new thing, a new whatever. But I was treating him like he was a failure when he actually wasn't. It was just his restrictions of his job and his life. And I'm like, wow, no pressure. Like, and it opened my eyes to a lot, like what we expect sometimes of our students might not fit their lifestyle. We just have to communicate with them and say, listen, is this okay? Because you can't come 3 days a week or 2 days a week. You only could come one. You do understand it's going to take you longer. It's going to be harder to remember. And I take Japanese lessons. In fact, I screwed up. I usually take them on Thursdays at 1, and I scheduled the podcast with you today, and I forgot that I had a Japanese lesson, so I had to cancel it. But it's like Japanese. If you don't practice it every day and you're listening to it every day, you'll forget. Like I know thousands of words in Japanese, but to recall those words quick enough for me to have a conversation is sometimes very difficult because everything is in English, right? My mindset is I'm learning my Japanese, but I'm learning it in English, meaning like how to say this or how to say that, but it's the Japanese version. So I know the English first, and then I find out what the translation is in Japanese.
Right.
Like Sofia Vergara from Modern Family, the beautiful Spanish lady, she said, I think in Spanish all the time. So a lot of times, even when I'm talking to someone, I'm thinking in Spanish, and then I got to transcribe it into English and say it. So our first language is English. So I'm thinking in English, and I got to transcribe it into Japanese. And that's why people struggle.
Right.
So it's like almost like if we didn't name the technique wrist lock, then a motegyaku. We just called it a motegyaku. That would be all they need to know.
Right.
Because they would remember it. This is called a motegyaku. That's called oragyaku. That's called ogyaku. Like, well, you know what I mean? Because they have no other alternative than not transcribing the Japanese into English.
Right. No, you're absolutely 100% correct, because in our teen class, we kind of tested this theory. We started teaching them the Japanese right away and not using any English.
Right.
And the teens have it down.
Yeah.
So,
amazing, right?
Yeah.
So that's where our old school mindset used to be. Like I would get annoyed. Now I'm learning new technologies to try to get to people. But I do have to say, for whatever reason, I don't blame it on COVID. I think it's been a decline for the last 14 years or so, where kids don't learn the way they used to. They're not outside and play. They're not doing free play. They're not physical. They're not having to figure things out on their own. Like, you put them in a room and you go, here's 2 tools. You got to find your way out. They'll just stay in the room.
Right.
They won't even try to, because they can't even conceive how to use a hammer and a screwdriver. Like it's just nothing that they could do. So it's a shame that that's the way it is. But then I look at myself, and this also keeps me motivated. Maybe I could be that guy for those few kids or those few adults that could enlighten them to change their lives. It's not the masses that I used to. It was much easier 25 years ago than it is now. But at least maybe if I get through to 10 of them, 20 of them versus last when I used to do it 200 or 300, I'll still do a good job with helping society out.
Yeah, I think parents need, even adults too, need martial arts schools more than ever now.
I agree.
Just, I'm very fearful for the next 20 years.
Right.
Because these kids are going to be adults, and they're going to be, the ones running the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's most of them, I wouldn't say most of them, but you see some of them, like they can't deal with normal human problems. And it's like, what are you going to do when you go out into the workforce? And it's just because of the helicopter parenting styles and trying to keep them in a bubble and trying to keep them safe.
Right.
You cannot keep somebody safe all the time. You need people. Humans learn through failure. And
right.
I'll always say this: humans learn through failure. I failed a lot in my life.
Yeah.
And you learn from it. You bump, you scrape your knee, but you learn, okay, not to get on that bicycle again. Right.
Right.
I'm gonna use another bicycle that's more sturdy or whatever.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. That's something that we don't put ourselves out there, because like, look, that old saying, everyone uses it in the martial arts: fall down 9 times, get up 10, or fall 8, get up 9. It's always get up that one last time is what's going to teach you the lesson. But, and then other people, successful people say, well, would you have discouraged your child from walking because he fell the first few times when he tried to stand on 2 feet? No, you'd motivate him, hold his hands, do whatever you can. Yet a lot of them, like even with going back to the tournaments, people will go like, no, I don't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it, and I know they don't want to do it because number one, they're afraid. Number two, they don't feel confident. Number three, they're not sure what's going to happen. I go, but the way to do it is to do it and then get better. Like all my demo team kids are really good in the tournament circuit because they've been competing 6 times a year. And then they practice extra twice a week to get prepared. So they're much better because they put the time in. So other parents will be like, no, they're just not into it. I'm like, yeah, but you need to really push them. I always say this analogy. If you're on a little league baseball team, you wouldn't just go to the practices and skip the games on the weekends. You'd go to the practices and play the games.
Yeah.
And we went to a professional baseball game, a semi-professional baseball game the other day, and my daughter doesn't know baseball, so she's sitting next to me, and I'm saying, there's a right fielder, and he throws the ball to home plate, and he picks the guy off as he's trying to steal third to home. And I go, I did that once, Kiara. And she's like, yeah, right, Dad. I go, no, but I threw it so hard it went over the backstop into the audience. Like I was like, I was mortified. People were like, they were making fun of me and all that, and I'm like. Right. But I didn't quit. I kept on going. I took my ribs from everybody. Hey, you're going to get it into the catcher's mitt or you're going to throw it to the next field. But I kept on going. I could have easily quit and I never did. And that's what made me a better player. Yeah. But people they're trying to protect their kids too much.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, we can have a whole nother hour on quitting, the quitting aspect.
We were already overtime.
Yeah. But that we can save that for next one. But yeah, quitting doesn't help anybody because I can't tell you how many times we speak to parents and stuff, and their kids have tried 6 different things and they're at the age of 5. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Like it's not good. It is not good.
And then they'll say like, oh yeah, but he doesn't really stick with anything. I go, no, you don't really stick with anything.
Right.
Because your kid's 5, he doesn't know any better. He cries, like I had a little girl cry yesterday and the dad wouldn't let it. Like he stood at the door, kept saying, go, don't cry. Every time we get her not to cry, you're doing good. And then she started to cry again. I'm like, Wrenchy Ryan shut the door on him and said, you got to step away because we're never going to get her to just listen because you're there. And I get it. You're a parent and the kid was little. But sometimes it's too difficult as a parent to just trust in the adults and the parents.
Right.
All right, man. Cool, so we're running out of time, right?
Yeah, we're out of time. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you enjoyed this, please comment, share, all that stuff. Let us know how we did. We're going to be doing this once a month. But if we gain some traction, if you guys like this, we'll do it more often.
Yeah.
But we appreciate the comments, from several people. Stephanie Dunham, one of my classmates, I guess you can say, she owns a dojo in Delaware. She commented about running a commercial dojo versus a more traditional. She said she likes the more traditional and stay small. That was great feedback.
Yeah.
But this was great, man. I'm
excited. I had a good time because I do 2 other podcasts. Most of them are on business.
Right.
But this is really my passion, like to talk about the benefits of what we get out. So maybe on our next podcast, we'll dig deep into that topic of Geary and loyalty, because it's a thing that's very perplexing and confusing to many people. And it might change their whole entire perspective on life.
I like that. Cool.
All right. Thanks, man. It's great seeing you always. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Sayonara.
All right. Sayonara.